Welcome to our daily news edition, coming to you live from Canal, Algérie. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives the President of the National Assembly of the Republic of South Korea. Kim Jin-pyo affirms that Algeria is his sole country's strategic partner in Africa. The head of state advocates a collective approach to tackle challenges in food and energy security, emphasizing that the events in Gaza constitute a clear violation of international law during a statement made during his address at the opening of the third G77 plus China summit. And the dire situation in Gaza is worsened by high risks of epidemics at a time when the non-stopping Zionist bombardments continue on their 107th day running. Protests commemorate the 40th anniversary of the Moroccan Rif uprising. Hundreds of Rifans took to the streets yesterday in several European cities. Another economic asset for Algeria, the introduction of the self-entrepreneur status and the launching of the National Self-Entrepreneur Agency, an innovative approach with unprecedented facilitations. And to learn more about this, we will have great pleasure to welcome Hamdi Salami, Strategy and Organization Consultant. Welcome back. First of all, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received the President of the National Assembly of the Republic of South Korea, Kim Jin-pyo, this Sunday. The meeting took place in the presence of the President of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, and the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, Boulam Boulam. Following the meeting, Kim Jin-pyo affirmed that Algeria is South Korea's sole strategic partner in Africa. Let's have a listen.
I'm very happy for visiting Algeria, our only strategic partner in Africa. This visit is of great importance because it is the first of its kind for the President of the Parliament of the Republic of Korea in Algeria since 13 years. I was received today by His Excellency the President Abdelmajid Tebboune. We exchanged interests and discussed ways and means of strengthening bilateral cooperation. During this meeting, I underlined that since the establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries in 1990, the Republic of Korea and Algeria have proceeded to strengthen relations of friendship and cooperation. I highlighted the fact that these relations have extended to the international level since our two countries are called upon to work together as non-permanent members within the Security Council. Algeria is the third partner of the Republic of Korea in Africa. Trade between our two countries reached the highest level even during the COVID pandemic. I also stressed that the construction of Algeria's new project of President Abdelmajid Tebboune is on track. I also recall that the Republic of Korea can provide its assistance and its experience, particularly in the field of processing industries. Finally, I called for the support from Algeria in the nuclear disarmament file of the North Korea and the restoration of peace on the Korean peninsula. I invited President Tebboune to the Korea-Africa Summit, which will be held next June. I expressed my deep gratitude to President Abdelmajid Tebboune and the high authorities for the warm welcome reserved for our delegation here in Algeria.
The President of South Korea's National Assembly was equally received by the President of the Council of the Nation, Salah Koujil. Under this new development, the third G77 plus China summit kicked off in Kampala, Uganda this Sunday, with Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi representing the President of the Republic. Themed Leave No One Behind, the summit aims to strengthen cooperation among southern countries, focusing on trade, investment, sustainable development, climate change, mitigation, poverty, eradication, and digital economy advancement. During this summit, the President's speech delivered by the Prime Minister emphasized the need for enhanced cooperation and economic integration within the group so as to maintain unity in international organizations. And in quest of preserving the interests of the South, the President highlighted initiatives to help countries achieve the 2023 development plan and fulfill common goals. In his speech, the President of the Republic urged a collective and coordinated approach to address challenges in food security, climate change, and energy, emphasizing Algeria's role as the host of the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Governments of Gas Exporting Countries Forum in March of 2024. He also expressed his commitment to make this meeting a decisive turning point, aiming to strengthen the country's sovereign rights over their resources. Let's have a listen.
This summit is a new opportunity to reaffirm the unity spirit and the countries of the South solidarity in order to realize our common aspirations to build a better world, which is the slogan chosen by the Ugandan presidency for this historic summit. This summit is taking place in a particular international context, marked by divisions and a series of crises that have affected the countries of the South, widening the gap with the countries of the North, especially as the situation is characterized by multiple challenges, in particular food and energy security, worsening poverty and the indebtedness of certain countries.
The President of the Republic also affirmed that what is happening in Gaza is a clear violation of international law. Algeria defends and supports the right of the Palestinian people for an independent state.
There is no doubt that the flagrant violation of international humanitarian law and the deprivation of most basic rights of the Palestinian people is a disgrace to all humanity. We reaffirm our commitment to the rights of peoples to development and self-determination in accordance with the principles of the international law, principles which Algeria and the group have always defended.
For the past 2 days, the G77 plus China summit included discussions about means to reinforce the resilience of the countries of the South facing the international economic business climate. Interventions by heads of states and governments who agreed to work on inclusive and equitable economy. Report by our correspondent to Kampala, Toufiq Ajali, taken up by Najah Dayar.
A new dynamism for partnership between the countries of the South in an increasingly competitive world was the call made by the participants at the 3rd summit of the Group of 77 and China in Kampala, Uganda's capital. Under the slogan, "Leave no one behind," the participants unanimously stressed the need to strengthen the resilience of the countries of the South in the face of the international economic situation and called for a more inclusive and equitable economy. Among the issues addressed at the summit was the implementation of a comprehensive reform of the global economic and financial system to make it fairer and more equitable by correcting the dysfunctions resulting from the dominance of rich countries in political, economic, and financial decision-making mechanisms. It is also about strengthening relations and exchanges between the countries of the South, particularly in the areas of trade, investment, sustainable development, climate change, poverty eradication, and the development of the digital economy. In the current geopolitical context, the countries of the South are committed to working together to develop mechanisms for economic integration at a time when the contribution of developing countries to the world trade and international investment remains low in relation to their capacities.
Following the interventions, the representative of the President of the Republic took a souvenir photo with the heads of state and government taking part in the summit. On the sidelines of the summit, Premier Nabil Arbawi held talks with the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, who entrusted him to convey his greetings and deep regard to the President of the Republic, recalling their discussions during the Arab Summit hosted by Algeria in November of 2022. Still on the sidelines of the Kampala summit, the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ahmed Attaf held bilateral discussions with the Somali Deputy Prime Minister Saleh Jama and the Foreign Minister of Benin Bakari Ajadi Oshigan The talks provided an opportunity to assess Algeria's relations with both countries and discuss regional developments. In a different topic, the Interior Minister officially installed Riyad bin Hamid as new Deputy Governor of Busada. Brahim Merad affirmed during the ceremony that this administrative subdivision is part of the current policy adopted by the country's high authorities. And in our today's economic file, the first self-entrepreneur cards were issued yesterday following the creation of the National Self-Entrepreneur Agency through a digital platform, a move that involves supervision and tax advantages. Story by Yasin Hamdi.
Significant progress has been added to the success list in the economic sector in Algeria with the introduction of a new approach based on the promotion of independent work and encouraging initiatives in order to improve the sector, the creation of the self-entrepreneur status and the launching of the National Self-Entrepreneur Agency establish an innovative approach, thus creating an adequate atmosphere for the legal activities of self-employed workers.
Having the self-entrepreneur status will facilitate our integration in the sector of entrepreneurship. I subscribed and I am lucky to be among the first ones to get the self-entrepreneur card.
The Ministry of the Knowledge Economy, Startups and Microbusiness will work on the implementation of this approach by providing the self-entrepreneurs all the necessary resources to achieve their ambitious projects.
The law was promulgated in January 2023 and the regulatory tax in May 2023. The agency was created in the end of 2023 and we have just officially launched the National Self-Entrepreneur Agency. Several ministerial departments contributed to the project of the self-entrepreneur status.
Having a self-entrepreneur status will offer incentive benefits that will facilitate the access to employment market and independent work.
The self-entrepreneurs will no longer need to have workspace and subscribe to the commercial register. It's an easy way to collaborate with the economic partners. Among the advantages, there is also a particular contribution regime to the National Social Security Fund for the self-employed, with a minimal contribution that corresponds to an income equivalent to the minimum wage, and a preferential tax regime subject to a flat rate tax regime with a 0.5% rate of the turnover, as planned in the 2024 Finance Law.
The new platform of the National Self-Entrepreneur Agency for the subscriptions to get the self-entrepreneur card recorded more than 1,300 activity codes in 7 different sectors, such as consulting, expertise, training, cultural services, and communication.
Still with the same topic, we are delighted to welcome with us tonight Mr. Hamdi Salami, who is a strategy and organization consultant. Welcome to our studio tonight, Mr. Salami.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored by the invitation.
Thank you very much. So first, Mr. Salami, you are among the beneficiaries of the self-entrepreneur card. Could you please explain to our viewers what is this card exactly?
So this card is the work permit, if you will, or the authorization or the legal framework of the activity that we would like to have, and it's some sort of a micro, I would say. A micro registre de commerce, you know, like okay. It's a micro registre de commerce, and this will allow us as people with experience/expertise to exercise or to work within a legal framework where we are basically protected, first of all, okay. Whether socially, legally, or for our retirement. Okay. So that's what is in short the card.
Okay. So would you tell us how this card is obtained, or what are the steps you undertook in order to get this card?
It's actually very simple. It took me literally 20 minutes to apply for the card.
Okay.
So basically, I needed basic information about myself and also my national ID, along with a photo with the requested size.
Okay.
And I have uploaded my resume along with a photo that confirms it's me. So the platform asks the applicant to hold their ID and take a photo of themselves, so that they will be able to, the ministry or the agency will be able to identify the entrepreneur.
Okay, so everything is done online, according
100%.
Okay.
100%. And I was among, since I was invited by the agency to apply in the pilot phase of the process. So I was among the very first one. I was actually the first one to get it.
Okay.
But usually, or it should be received through the post office of your choice.
Okay.
It's whether the post office next to your house or the post office next to your workplace, whatever you choose.
Okay, thank you. So according to you, as a card holder yourself, what is the added value of this card, or what do you expect from it exactly?
So what I'm expecting from it exactly, I already have it, is the freedom to exercise and be my own boss. So work for myself legally with an extremely simplified accountability, and also a really symbolic taxation. It's 0.5%.
Okay.
So that's really symbolic. And as I said earlier to one of your colleagues, this is some sort of a test. For me personally, it's a test of entrepreneurship. So I'll have 3 years, let's say, to experiment my ideas and what I'm willing to do. And then it's whether I grow to a big business and then I move under another legal regime, or I stay as I am because, under the regime I'm under, so that because it's suitable for me. So I don't know yet, but it's completely a new adventure, which I'm looking forward to.
So it allows you to explore your options, as you're explaining.
Absolutely, absolutely. But also export services, which is extremely important. But there is also something about this new status of the self-entrepreneur, is that it's very important for some businesses, because before this, a lot of businesses were hiring or working with freelancers that had no legal framework, and then they ended up having issues with the tax office because there was no status for the freelancer. So now it would be even easier for businesses to have legal employees, if I may say, or legal service providers.
So this way, everyone is protected.
Happy.
And happy, of course. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Mr. Salami.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
It's
you
been
for
a pleasure.
accepting our invitation. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So to Gaza now, where we take stock of the situation there after 107 days of the Zionist attacks, which intensified in the last 24 hours, causing hundreds of deaths and injuries. The risk of disease and epidemics now adds to the many dangers faced by the population in the blocked enclave. Story by Arani al-Bahri.
On the 107th day of the genocidal war against the Palestinian people, the Zionist occupation carried out 15 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, making 178 martyrs and 293 injured during the last 24 hours. Incessant air attacks have left a number of victims trapped under the rubble and on roads beyond the reach of civil defense units. The Zionist attacks have razed entire neighborhoods, displaced 85% of the population, and caused an unparalleled humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian enclave, asphyxiated by a total blockade. Humanitarian aid is blocked or arrives in trickles. The Palestinian is left to his sad fate or death, fear, hunger, cold, and epidemics. As many as 24 cases of hepatitis A and thousands of cases of jaundice have been reported in the Gaza Strip. The health ministry has warned of the spread of this epidemic due to overcrowding in displacement centers. The capacity to diagnose diseases remains extremely limited due to the absence of functional laboratories, and the treatment capacity also remains limited. The World Health Organization's official reiterated his call for unhindered and safe access to medical assistance and health protection. International organizations warn of the ongoing health disaster, with humanitarian aid particularly absent despite a UN Security Council resolution. But despite their multiple appeals and damning reports, humanitarian organizations remain powerless in the face of the Zionist war machine supported by Western powers.
Popular protests supporting Palestine continue worldwide. It started yesterday with a march for Palestine in the French capital Paris, set to reach Brussels on January 27th, bringing together hundreds of people. The demonstration aims to draw attention to the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza and encourage international efforts for an immediate and sustainable ceasefire. And commemorating the 40th anniversary of the Moroccan Reef Uprising, the Reef residents took to the streets of several European cities yesterday, such as Amsterdam. Najah Tayyar has more details.
A sit-in so that no one forgets 40 years have passed since January 19th, 1984, when the people of the Reef rose up against injustice and demanded their freedom and independence, a basic and legitimate right. The response from Hassan II, King of Morocco at the time, was furious beyond description. The demonstrations in Nador, Hoceima and Tétouan ended up with blood, hundreds of dead and injured, torture and wrongfully imprisoned people. Hassan II officially declared war on the Rifa people.
Today, the Rifin paid tribute to the victims of the massacre committed against them by the Makhzen 40 years ago. It was a declaration of war. Hundreds of innocent people were killed, some buried alive, and dozens disappeared. The Rifins remember this day with sadness, especially as those responsible for the massacre are still in power.
يحتفلوا أو يخلدوا الشعب الريفي هذا اليوم بكل حسرة وأسى.
We are here to commemorate these terrible events, to remind the Makhzen that we will never forget the crimes of the past. Hundreds of innocent people lost their lives, some even buried alive. We will never forgive this corrupt regime for its heinous acts.
As the National Party of Reef People, we have a duty to remind the world of this historic event and the barbaric crimes committed against the Reef people on that day. We are actively campaigning for an end to the violations committed by the Moroccan colonialists. We also salute the media who are making our voices heard.
A sit-in to remind everyone of the regime's crimes committed on that day against the innocent civilians, and also to denounce the policy of double standards in a world where Morocco, despite all its crimes and violations of international law, is now the president of the United Nations Human Rights Council.
Back to Algeria, where the Palestinian cause is at the heart of all activities. A charity exhibition was organized yesterday at the Algiers Opera, gathering more than 150 Algerian artists in the presence of several officials and a large audience present to renew their unwavering support for the Palestinian people. Najah Tayyar with the full story.
Organized with devotion, this event gathered committed artists and a determined audience to support the Palestinian cause.
The artist can send a message and support a cause through its art. As artists, we're here to denounce the atrocities lived by the Palestinian people.
We support the Palestinian children and their families because they have the right to live their childhood just like us.
It's not the first time that Algeria supports Palestine. As Palestinians, we grew up with the Algerian Revolution. It's a model for us.
The hearts of the audience were indescribably touched by Man El Gharbi singing Wain El Malayin, a Palestinian committed song. And the actor Hassan Kashash was also present with an impressive poetic performance by reciting a Muhammad Darwish poem that reminds of the reality of living in Palestine.
This event was organized in solidarity with the Palestinian people. The money collected will go to the Palestinians. I'm happy to take part to this event.
These memorable moments created an atmosphere where the artistic passion met the commitment to the Palestinian legitimate cause.
And we wind up our today's edition with sports. The African handball tournament, which is held in Egypt, where Algeria played its third game in the group and won against Morocco 23-30. A third victory, synonym of a qualification of our team to the second round of the tournament. And with that, we have came to the end of today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in.